When I first moved into apartment 203, the building already felt wrong. The air was stale, the lights hummed even when switched off, and every step I took seemed to echo from beneath me, as if something hollow lived under the floor. I tried to ignore it. Old buildings make noises, I told myself. But then came the pattern. Every night, exactly at 3:12 a.m., 3 dull thuds echoed from the floorboards. Thud, 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 followed by a long, dragging sound like fingernails trailing across wood. I thought it was a neighbor, until I asked the landlord. He gave me this strange, uneasy look and said, "There's no one under you." I laughed nervously. "So, what's below 203? His answer was almost a whisper. "Room 103, but it's sealed. No one's lived there since the accident." That night I couldn't sleep. The noise came again, but louder this time. I pressed my ear to the floor and my breath froze midair. I heard whispering, not one voice, but two. One was low, broken, muttering something I couldn't make out. The other was clear, soft, and familiar. It said the same words over and over. "Don't talk at night." My pulse stopped, because I'd heard that exact phrase before, in a video, a story, about a room that was supposed to be sealed shut. I whispered back before I could stop myself. "Who's there?" The floor went silent. Then a voice that wasn't mine whispered from below as dust began to seep through the cracks. "You moved above me." I didn't move all night, just lay there on the cold wooden floor, staring into the dark, listening to something alive shifting under the boards. Every breath I took, it matched mine. A slow inhale, a shallow exhale, like the floor itself was breathing. By morning, I convinced myself it was imagination. But when I stood up, a layer of gray dust covered the spot where my head had been. It wasn't ordinary dust. It had patterns in it. Tiny grooves, like finger marks dragging in circles. Later that day, I met the caretaker in the hallway. He was an old man, always sweeping, always silent. When I mentioned the noise, he stopped sweeping and said without looking up, "Never put your ear to the floor in this building." "Why?" I asked. He stared at me with clouded eyes. "Because she listens back." I wanted to laugh it off, but I couldn't. There was something about the way he said "she," like he knew exactly who I was talking about. That night, I recorded everything. I placed my phone on the floor at 3 a.m. and hit record. I sat in silence. At 3:12, right on time, the first thud came, then another, and then a long dragging sound, like someone crawling in slow, painful movements under the apartment. When I replayed the recording, the sound was different, slower, distorted, and underneath it all I heard a voice. It whispered faintly through the static, "Don't cover the cracks." I didn't sleep after that. Every shadow in the corners of my room felt thicker, heavier, and when I turned the lights off, the wooden floor creaked by itself, like something shifting its weight beneath it. At dawn, I noticed something new, a small hole in the corner of my room, right where the floorboards met the wall. Inside that hole was dust, thick, gray, and still moving, as if tiny grains were breathing in and out. I grabbed a flashlight, knelt down, and looked closer. For a second, I thought I saw fabric, like part of a sleeve, but when I blinked, it was gone. Then, just before I moved the light away, something inside the hole blinked back. 2 small, colorless eyes, open wide, staring straight at me. I screamed, fell backward, hit the table, and the lights in the apartment flickered violently, as if the entire building had gasped. the hole sealed itself with a slow, grinding sound. And from deep inside the floor, a whisper rose up through the wood. You shouldn't have looked down. For 2 nights, the sound didn't stop. The scraping, the dragging, that horrible wet shuffle beneath the floorboards. Raza tried everything, sleeping with music, keeping the lights on, even pounding the floor with a hammer. But every time he stopped moving, it started again. And tonight, it was louder, closer. He pressed his ear to the cold wooden floor. At first, just silence. Then, a sound like breathing through mud. Ah, ah. Raza jerked back. That wasn't a pipe, that was lungs. He grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight, scanning the floor. And that's when he saw it. A thin line of moisture seeping up through a crack, dark, thick. It wasn't water. It smelled like rotting soil. He whispered, "No way." And as if answering him, the wood beneath his feet bulged, once, twice, then split open. A hand burst through the floor, gray, trembling, covered in dirt and long black hair. It clawed at the air, searching. Another hand followed. Raza screamed, stumbling back, his flashlight dropping to the floor. Its light rolled under the bed, and in that pale glow, he saw it. A face, half human, half something else. Eyes milky white, skin like damp paper, torn in places where something dark crawled underneath. It looked at him and smiled. "You moved into my ceiling." Raza's body froze. He wanted to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The thing began to pull itself up, cracking the wood, dragging its body through the gap. Its spine snapped into place with every movement, the sound like twigs breaking. He grabbed the door, but it wouldn't budge. Something on the other side was holding it shut. Then came another sound, a low rumble from under the bed. He turned the flashlight, and there were 2 more faces staring back at him, pressed against the floor, eyes wide open. The whisper filled the room again, echoing through the walls, under the furniture, behind his own breath. "You're on our side now." The lights flickered, the ceiling cracked. And this time, the sound wasn't coming from below. It was coming from above. The ceiling groaned, like something heavy was crawling across it. Slow, deliberate, dragging its weight. Dust rained down onto Raza's face as he stared upward, frozen between terror and disbelief. He whispered to himself, "But there's no apartment above me." He lived on the top floor. The thing below had gone silent. Only the faint drip of that dark liquid seeped through the cracked floorboards now, and the sound above replaced it. A thud, then another, then the unmistakable creak of bare feet walking directly overhead. Raza grabbed his phone and turned on the camera flashlight, aiming it up. He didn't realize he was shaking until the light flickered across the cracked ceiling paint, and he saw something wet moving in the cracks, like a shadow shifting under the plaster. He took 1 step back. The shadow moved with him. Then it stopped exactly above where he stood, and then a fingertip pushed through the ceiling. The plaster split, sprinkling white dust down his face. Another finger appeared beside it, then another, and another, until a full hand pressed down through the ceiling like it was made of paper. He stumbled back, hard hammering, trying to reach the door again, but when he grabbed the knob, it was ice cold, and from the keyhole, a single trembling breath escaped. "Don't leave. We waited for you." The voice was faint, childlike. It wasn't coming from the ceiling this time. It came from inside the walls. Raza backed toward the center of the room, turning in every direction. Tiny bulges began forming on every wall, like someone pressing from the other side. The paint stretched, cracking, revealing glimpses of gray skin underneath. Dozens of hands, dozens of faces, all whispering in perfect unison, "Stay with us, it's safe below." The light bulb above him exploded. Glass rained down. The only light left was from his phone, flickering, shaking in his grip. Then from the open wound in the ceiling, a single eye looked down. Yellowed, wet, wide. Raza screamed, and the last thing his camera recorded was that eye rolling down the ceiling and landing at his feet, still blinking. And in that reflection, for a split second, he saw his own face. But it wasn't his anymore. The building was silent, completely silent, except for the faint hum of something beneath the floor. Raza sat frozen in the corner, clutching his phone like a weapon. The eye that had fallen from the ceiling lay beside him. It had stopped blinking, but it hadn't gone still. Tiny nerves twitched around it, dragging it slowly across the dusty tiles, as if it were crawling back to where it came from. He whispered to himself, I'm leaving right now." But when he looked at the door, the handle was gone. Just a smooth, seamless wall where it used to be. He stumbled toward the window, slammed it open, and froze. There was no city outside, no street, no sky. Only black, endless fog, and faint outlines of buildings hanging in it, upside down, like reflections. He could see his own window staring back at him from the dark, but there was someone standing inside it, someone who looked exactly like him. "You shouldn't have opened the floor." The voice wasn't his. It came from everywhere at once. Raza's reflection smiled. Then another smile appeared in the wall behind him. Then another, dozens, spreading like cracks across the room. The walls pulsed, they breathed, and slowly the floor beneath him began to sink, like quicksand, soft, heavy, swallowing his feet. He screamed, clawing at the ground, but the wood turned spongy, pulling him down deeper. When he looked below the surface, he saw faces beneath the planks, staring up at him through thin layers of dust. Eyes wide, mouths open, silent. All the previous tenants, still here, still alive, their bodies half melted into the foundation, their eyes rolling, lips moving with one whisper that filled the air like wind through a tunnel. The building doesn't let anyone leave. The walls around him began to shift, old wallpaper tearing, revealing human skin underneath. Hands reached out, hundreds of them, gripping his arms and pulling. He dropped his phone. The flashlight spun on the floor, and in that light he saw the entire room was a body. The beams were ribs, the pipes, veins, the floor, flesh, and he was being swallowed by it. He screamed until the sound vanished beneath the wet, crushing dark, and the room went still again. The cracks sealed, the floor flattened. Only silence remained. Hours later, the apartment lights flickered back on, and from under the floorboards, a new eye opened, with Raza's reflection inside it. It's my turn to wait now. It had been 3 months since anyone lived in apartment 7C. The neighbors said the last guy, Raza, left in the middle of the night. No one saw him go. No one heard a truck. He just disappeared. Now it was Sarah's turn to move in. A quiet woman, mid-20s, looking for something cheap and private. The landlord gave her a discount, no questions asked, and said only one thing before handing over the keys. don't do any repairs yourself, especially not the floor. Sarah laughed at the time, but that night she understood what he meant. The apartment felt wrong, not haunted, just alive. When she walked across the floor, it gave slightly under her feet, not like old wood, but like skin, and the faint smell of damp earth lingered in every corner, no matter how many candles she lit. Around 2:13 a.m., a sound woke her, a faint, steady rhythm. Tap, 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 right under her bed. She pressed her ear to the floor. The tapping stopped, then a whisper, muffled, low, struggling to breathe through wood. Help, please, I'm still here. Sarah's heart dropped. It sounded like a man's voice, hoarse and distant, like it was coming through dirt. She whispered back before she could stop herself. Who are you? The voice hesitated, then softly said, I'm under the apartment. The air turned cold. Every light in the room dimmed at once. Sarah stood, clutching her phone's flashlight, aiming it toward the sound. She saw a thin crack forming in the floorboards, and something wet began seeping out of it. Dark, thick, moving. She stepped back, shaking, as the voice came again, clearer this time, trembling, desperate. He took my name. He took my face. Please, before it does the same to you. The floor bulged. The lamp flickered once, and for just a second, Sarah saw a reflection in the black bottle forming at her feet. Her own face, but it was smiling, and her mouth wasn't. The reflection whispered back in her own voice, You moved in above me. Then the bulb burst. Everything went dark. The next morning, the landlord stood outside 7C, knocking. No answer. He unlocked the door. The apartment was empty. Only the faint smell of wet earth remained, and the floorboards looked freshly sealed. He sighed, took out a small notepad, and added one more line to a growing list taped to his clipboard. Tenant Nadra 42 moved out overnight. Then he smiled. Under his fingernails, there was still dust from the floor. Welcome home, he whispered, closing the door. Recovered audio file, 7cfloor.wav. Timestamp, 03:14 a.m. Soft static. Sound of wood creaking. Then a voice, trembling, close to the mic. Sarah, whispering, If anyone finds this, don't come here. There's something under the apartment. It sounds like people, but they're wrong. A faint dragging noise, slow, wet, rhythmic. Sarah whispers again. It's whispering my name, but it's my own voice. I think it's trying to remember how to be me. Sudden thud, microphone falls, distortion fills the recording. A new voice, lower, layered with multiple tones, speaks right into the mic. Voice, you recorded me once, Raza. Now, I record you. Guttural breathing, then silence. The static deepens, becomes almost like a heartbeat. Voice, softly. We all live under the apartment now. A faint scraping sound starts, hundreds of tiny fingers against wood. Then a whisper, almost inhuman, layered, circling the microphone as if it's surrounded. The ceiling breathes tonight. Recording abruptly cuts. Final log, maintenance report, filed 2 days later. Unit 7C sealed again. No sign of previous tenants. Noise complaints continue from rooms below, despite there being no basement. End of file.